continues to fracture.
A wall campaign is now.
This is the car market in Mogadishu.
NATO's military success against
many Western nations.
This is On Assignment.
Hello and welcome everyone to a special look back at On Assignment in 2014. I'm Imran Siddiqui.
And I'm Alex Villarreal. Coming up, home for the holidays in Los Angeles, one artist builds tiny homes for people who have nowhere else to go.
We'll also take another look at a radio station that broadcasts to one very specific audience.
He's only 14, but he's a prodigy on the trumpet and has already played with world-famous musicians.
And they are Africa's young leaders of tomorrow, interning in America and taking home what they've learned.
It's On Assignment. Let's do it. A discarded cabinet door makes a window cover. Shipping pallets become walls. In Oakland, California, one artist is using recycled materials to make sure homeless people have a place to call their own.
Greg Klein builds small enclosures that serve as portable homes for the homeless, providing protection from the outside world. I talked about that with VOA correspondent Michael Sullivan in October. Take a look.
This industrial section of West Oakland is dotted with tiny houses designed and built by a local artist. Greg Klein has built and given away at least 20 of these structures.
And I like to help them, sure. I mean, it's fun for me. I like to make things, and to do something that makes a big impact in someone's life is good.
How did Greg come up with this idea of building homes for the homeless in his community?
Well, you know, in about 2005, Greg moved into this area of West Oakland, which is an industrial area. It's the port area. It's the area where the writer Jack London lived and worked in a cannery area 100 years ago. It's a kind of a rough area, a lot of small factories, a lot of freeway overpasses. He moved in there to create an artist studio because the land was very cheap. But he noticed there were a lot of homeless people who would settle in the area as well. And he said one day, one of the homeless people came up to him, it was raining, and asked if he could help provide shelter. Oscar Young got a home and relief from chilly nights on the street.
Well, it's better than living on the ground, to tell you the truth, because if it wasn't for Greg, I would be still on the ground.
He happened to be experimenting with building small structures. His initial thought was that he could build a small structure just using discarded materials and perhaps sell these. But he had one sitting outside his studio and he thought, well, I'll let this homeless person sleep in this, and eventually he gave it away. And then he started building one after another. And he's built something like 20 of these structures so far. They are on wheels. They're theoretically portable, although people generally try to find a place, set them up, and basically you just move in. Some on the streets once had houses of their own, but SHEILA Williams has learned to live with less.
I had it all just like two people do out there. But now look at me now. I'm living in one of Greg's houses, and I'm thankful to that man.
So this is a place that they can lock up, they can keep things safe, they can be secure themselves at night, and they can be sheltered from the elements when the weather gets bad. And it really makes all the difference. It just gives them a sense of belonging and a sense that they have a place to call home.
One of the interesting things in your piece, in this particular piece, was how Greg is providing power supply to these homes.
That's right, and every one of these homes is a little bit different, but basically he goes out on the street and he finds discarded materials.
I put it on light, you know, an old lamp, so you could move it around. You can keep it optimum just to the sun.
Empty coffee bags become shingles, and a washing machine door and refrigerator shelf become windows. And this area of West Oakland is, because it's abandoned at night, and you know, the factories closed down, there aren't many people, there's a lot of illegal dumping, and people who don't want to pay money to dispose of their materials at the local dump will come out and just dump things on the street. Well, normally the city has to go in and clean this up in the morning, but Greg goes out early some mornings and just sees what he can find. He finds pieces of lumber, you know, wood, discarded refrigerators, doors, discarded campers, all kinds of material, and he puts this together. He goes out to some hardware stores and he buys a few things himself, just some inexpensive wheels or maybe some nails and screws and glue. But other than that, he is using discarded materials.
Does he need any kind of permit for this? The city has no objection to what he's doing.
Well, theoretically you cannot just create a home and set it on the sidewalk, but the police, I asked the homeless people, have you had problems from the police, which is generally a big problem with homeless people, and they say no. And I think what some of the homeless people are hoping and what Greg Klain is hoping is maybe, the city could come up with some vacant land or some areas where these things are fully legal and could even be permitted. But as it is now, they haven't had a problem in these areas.
Always great to hear from our LA correspondent Michael Sullivan. Let's go now from the West Coast to the Lone Star State of Texas. Every Friday evening, prison inmates in and around Houston tune into a radio program that was created just for them.
But the show, broadcast on a publicly funded station, has other audience members too, as VOA's Greg Flakes told On Assignment's Philip Alexio when we first brought you this story in July.
KPFT, may I have your name and where you're calling from?
A main feature of the weekly prison show is the call-in segment, where people can address their imprisoned loved ones.
Richard, I just want to say I love you, and my birthday's passed. I know your birthday's coming up too.
Many of the people working on the show are former convicts, including producer David Collingsworth, who first listened to it in a prison cell.
It showed me that somebody cared. Somebody was actually out there that cared.
Really appreciate it.
He says the show welcomes all callers, but there are often familiar voices on the line.
We can name all the regulars that call in, and we're a part of their lives.
Hey, Greg, how did the show get started? What was actually the inspiration behind it?
Well, a former convict from Texas prisons named Ray Hill started it in 1980, and it attracted an audience right away because there were a lot of prisoners at that time who had really no connection with their families, especially if the family lived far away from where the prison was. And at that time, they weren't allowed telephone privileges. So the radio show served as a sort of a connection between prisoners and their families. People could call into the show and give a message to whoever it might be in prison. In addition to the regular staff, the prison show counts on a number of expert guests who discuss subjects like prison health care, legal issues, and the death penalty. Attorney Bill Hayburn informs listeners about civil and legal rights in the prison system.
We feed inmates information, and we feed families information.
The interesting thing is that they've also attracted an audience that goes beyond that community. They now have listeners not only around the United States on the internet, but also in 25 different countries.
Now, an ex-con started this, so is the show run by primarily ex-cons?
Yes, I would say so. Most of the people that are working on it, the producer, the on-air people, for the most part, are ex-convicts. And they, of course, bring a personal perspective to it. And as the producer told me, he became aware of the show when he was in prison, listening to it on his little transistor radio in his cell. The show sometimes features live music performed by former inmates like Dennis Price.
Well, now I'm locked away.
His experience emerges in many of his songs, but Price says he wants to move on.
I want to be a good person for my son, but it is a chapter in my life, and I've learned from it, and I think that it's made me who I am.
If you can imagine somebody who makes a mistake, ends up in prison. He's not necessarily a really terrible person. He's not, maybe an armed robber or something like that, but he's somebody who's made a mistake and he ends up in prison. He's terrified. He doesn't know what to do. He's out of his element. So having someone who can kind of give them some guidance and let them know that there's someone else out there who's thinking about them. Someone, they're not completely alone and isolated in the prison. There are people on the outside who do care about these issues.
And as they say in Texas, that's some boot scooting music right there. Cool story there from Greg Flakes.
Very good. Well, we are taking a break now, but speaking of music, when we come back, we will introduce you once again to a child music prodigy whose trumpet playing skills put many adults to shame. You're watching On Assignment.
And welcome back to the show. A look back at some of On Assignment's segment from 2014 we thought you might want to see again. When he was just 5 years old, trumpet prodigy Jeff Galante was already playing with award-winning American musicians and appearing on national TV shows.
Well, today he is 14 and he continues to amaze audiences with his talent. VOA's Julie Tabo got the chance to meet Jeff, and she told me about this young man who is as wise and well-spoken as he is talented.
At this historic music venue in a quaint little town in Maryland, a group of seasoned professional musicians has gathered to play jazz. But the big sound of the trumpet comes from the youngest person on stage. The star of the show, 13-year-old Jeff Galante.
Jeff is an amazing little boy who's not so little when it comes to talent and personality. At 13, the moment we started interviewing him was obvious both to myself and my cameraman just how articulate and smart this young man is.
Music can be your passion, it can be your work, it can be your living, it can be what you do, and it's fun.
He does believe that this is his life's calling and that he will be doing this for the rest of his life. And he urges everyone, young and old, to pursue their passion, to do this as a living, and he feels that if you really do what you love, that can translate into a career, that you don't necessarily have to have hobbies to supplement your life.
Hobbies are a way to do something that you really love, and music is what I really love, so there's no need for hobbies.
How did you find out about Jeff, and what made you want to share his story?
Well, interestingly enough, I was doing a story about this photographer called Mary F. Calvert. I was on her website and I was looking through her portfolio, and I see these series of amazing photographs that she'd taken when Jeff was about 8. And I just happened to look at a little bio behind it and found out he lived in the area, and I thought, I have to do a story about this boy.
Jeff started music lessons, and after just 1 year, was performing in all kinds of venues. He has played for trumpet king Maynard Ferguson and jammed with such music greats as Grammy-winning Phil Driscoll and jazz legend Wynton Marsalis.
I was on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, so.
What was that like?
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember. But I can guess that it was pretty amazing.
What part of your body makes music?
What part of your body makes music? I don't know.
Your nose, because you pick it and you blow it.
Seeing him on stage playing with all of these people who have decades more experience than he has, but he seems so comfortable up there. How have other musicians responded to him?
Very well. I was surprised. I interviewed at least 3 of the musicians from that night alone, and they all were unanimous in their feeling that he is not only a huge talent, but so personable, so funny, making people feel at ease.
I think he's got a huge future in music from the way he plays, and to just have that kind of talent and maturity in his playing and sense of melody and his improvising, it's pretty remarkable.
He knows what to do, and he's obviously, I think, very confident. He's listening and he's paying attention, and that's high praise for someone of his age, because those are the elements of music that usually develop later on.
And it's such a cliche expression, but he really does seem to fit the bill of an old soul.
That's a very good way of describing him. He really is. He just believes you have to love what you do. In fact, he has a t-shirt that says, "Love what you do and do what you love." And he's pretty much living by that premise.
Why do people enjoy anything that they do? Whatever their passion is. It's hard to describe. It's just what they're meant to do as a person.
much fun to see Jeff again playing his trumpet. He really is an old soul, isn't he?
He's amazing. And did you see the look on the faces of those veteran musicians? It was just awesome.
Yeah, great.
Moving on, we're taking another break, but when we come back, we go mountain climbing on 2 continents. You're watching On Assignment. In 2014, 500 young Africans came to the U.S. under the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program for Young African Leaders. The program is part of the Young African Leaders Initiative President Obama launched in 2010, known as YALI.
Only 1% of the 50,000 people who applied got to participate, and one of those special few was JJ Segbefia, an entrepreneur who runs an outdoor expedition outfit in Ghana. So let's now take another look at what Segbefia did.
Okay. Every climbing adventure teaches me something new. So when I climb, she will be my belay.
Great.
Yeah, and I become the climber.
So the transition between what I was used to and what something that was completely new was an eye-opener for me. And I began to really think about all the kinds of stuff I'll have to ensure that my clients have when I'm going back home, at least to ensure their safety and their comfort while making room, of course, for our typically hot climate.
I work in a part of the world, as you're very much aware, in Africa, where people are very less trustful of outdoor adventure and extreme sports.
It's okay? No.
Yes, okay.
Oh my God.
So it's important for everyone to understand what the safety systems in place are. And that's probably even going to be the first thing we're going to market before we market the actual activity. Now that we are going to do rappelling, commercial rappelling with the US ADF grant, I am going to be introducing, as part of the entire system, helmets and harnessing systems and rope safety systems for my clients. Yeah, and just like the risk management techniques I have learned here, I would apply the same to ensure that the rappelling business is completely safe.
We have lots of people come through NOLS as students, oftentimes as interns, obviously employees, things along those lines. And I think everybody brings something a little bit special. But I think for somebody like JJ, who's had experiences in Ghana, and then he can come here, plug into our community. We learn from him, and hopefully he's learning something from us as well at the same time.
They actually have it to an exact science. They know how many pounds of food a person needs for a time and how much calories. And so there was actually a science to it, and that was good to learn.
JJ was wonderful. I didn't realize he had, until we got going, I didn't realize he had any experience.
Pendable are there, those ones on that side. The sleeping mats.
I should have known, because from day one, he just had this calming, supportive presence. And it was just, he's an amazing person. I'm really glad he was on our trip.
I'm better positioned to now drive home both the grants access that we have and all the experiences that I have to, in the next couple of months, really make a difference in Ghana when it comes to adventure sports.
My name is JJ Kweku Segbefia, and I am from Ghana, and I'm the expedition leader for Brave Hearts Expeditions.
The iconic Japanese character Hello Kitty, with cat ears, no mouth, and a little red bow on her head, started out as part of Japanese pop culture, but she has turned into a global phenomenon worth billions of dollars in sales each year.
And I can bet this time of the year people are willing to spend money on this device as
merchandise. Oh yeah, lots of Hello Kitty gifts.
Especially this time of the year. In Los Angeles, the little character's 40th anniversary was marked recently by fans of all ages. Elizabeth Lee has a story.
From Hello Kitty pizza to Hello Kitty makeup.
There's everything in here, from lip gloss to eyeliner. It's supposed to be all of Hello Kitty's favorite accessories.
The iconic character has taken over parts of Los Angeles as fans celebrate Hello Kitty's 40th birthday.
I'm hitting 40, and I've been with Hello Kitty since, God, I was like maybe 5 or 6.
It's cute. I guess my nieces really like it. So.
I'm actually amazed at how crazy people are about it, actually. So to me, it amazes me too.
Thousands of fans attended anniversary events like a convention and a Hello Kitty themed hotel. Designer KNIBB created this Hello Kitty exhibit at the Line Hotel.
I think it has something to do with innocence. It has something to do with acceptance. It has something to do with joy. I mean, I think we can all relate to that no matter how old we are.
Fans also visited the first Hello Kitty museum exhibit in North America. This Japanese icon's introduction to the United States reflects a part of American history, says Japanese American National Museum President Greg KIMURA.
For women of a certain generation, 40 years ago, Hello Kitty came along, and it was the first culturally Japanese image like this that they could identify with and embraced. And the early adopters were all Japanese Americans and Asian Americans.
Hello Kitty stores were first seen in Asian enclaves and eventually caught the attention of non-Asians, says co-curator of the exhibit and Hello Kitty scholar Christine Yano in a Skype interview.
And I think that, this with the flexibility of the design and this appeal to this broad range of consumership, that's what I think has been so important for Hello Kitty spread.
While working on this exhibit, Yano also discovered from the company Sanrio that Hello Kitty is not a cat. It's news that shocked fans.
That's weird. I don't understand that.
What, she's not a cat?
She's not a cat.
What is she? Why does she have
I don't know what
whiskers?
she is. She's just not a cat.
I still think she's a cat. Hello Kitty might be in the form, some kind of abstracted form of a cat, but that gives it particular kind of appeal. And the spirit is certainly that of, say, a little girl.
No matter who or what she is, her face has appeared on countless products, from school supplies to kitchen and bathroom items, and even motor oil. Many fans say it's her message of happiness, friendship, and fun that appeal to people of all ages and cultures. Elizabeth Lee for VOA News, Los Angeles.
I have to say that as a longtime fan of Hello Kitty myself, all growing up, and even now I still love her, I was one of those people who was just so surprised and really shocked at the fact that she's not a cat.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of other girls are disappointed too.
It's heartbreaking.
Okay, we'll make it up next week. But right now, the time for our show is running out. But please do join us again next week or watch On Assignment anytime at voanews.com, YouTube, and check us out on Facebook as well.
On behalf of all of us here at On Assignment, so long from Washington.